Welcome to this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. My name is James Williams, and today we discuss if Russell Westbrook will be a good fit on the Denver Nuggets. In case you guys didn't know, Russell Westbrook got traded from the Los Angeles Clippers. I will go ahead and show you guys his Woj's tweet. This happened a few days ago, July 18th to be exact. That is Thursday. The Los Angeles Clippers are sending Russell Westbrook and a second-round pick swap and cash to the Utah Jazz in a sign trade agreement for Chris Dunn. Westbrook is expected to agree on a contract buyout with the Jazz, clearing way for him to eventually join the Denver Nuggets after clearing waivers, sources tell ESPN. Okay, so the purpose of this video here today is I want to talk about the pros and cons of having Russell Westbrook on your team and kind of doing it if you're looking at the signing from a Denver perspective of the glass being half full or being half empty. So before we get into that, though, I want to talk about Denver and I want to talk about their approach to the offseason, these last two off seasons, because as you guys all know, 2023, the Denver Nuggets win the NBA championship, and then they kind of have a few decisions to make because they kind of have this perfect, 7-8 man rotation, but the Indiana Pacers are calling Bruce Brown and are giving him a bunch of money. Jeff Green leaves. So they kind of have to rebuild their bench. And instead of, trying to do some trades, trying to do, some big kind of like crazy signings and free agency, what the Denver Nuggets decide to do, it's like, hey, we believe in the guys that we are drafting, and we are going to try and build our bench out with guys that we've drafted, like Christian Brown, like Peyton Watson, like Julian Strother. And last year, they had mixed results doing that, because if you want to look at a reason that Denver ultimately got eliminated from Minnesota, it wasn't just the fact that Minnesota was a very good basketball team and they built this team specifically to defeat Nikola Jokic. It was the fact that they didn't really have much to do with the bench. Like, the Minnesota bench would always come in and be a lot more productive than the Denver bench, because the Denver bench was basically Christian Brown with mixed results. So Denver kind of has a little bit of an issue here. If you go to this offseason, they don't even keep KCP, and they're kind of just doing the same thing again with how they're building out their roster, where they're like, we'll just plug Christian Brown into the starting lineup where KCP was, and then we are going to rely on our bench with a lot of these other guys that we've drafted and developed. They drafted a few guys this year to try and help with that, and then they're trying to hope that guys like Peyton Watson, Julian Strother, go along, become better players. And basically their big free agent signing is Russell Westbrook. So let's start off by talking about the pros of Russell Westbrook being on the Denver Nuggets. Let's look at the glass half full. If you are making the case for Russell Westbrook to be a productive member on the Denver Nuggets. Okay. First off, this isn't a Contavious Caldwell-Pope replacement. Do not look at it as a Contavious Caldwell-Pope replacement. Look at it as a Reggie Jackson replacement, a backup point guard replacement. Because Reggie Jackson, in case you guys don't know, got shipped off with like a few second-round picks to the Charlotte Hornets. So if you're talking about, you're just comparing Reggie Jackson, who wasn't necessarily, like, he didn't necessarily have the best fit in Denver. There's times he, thrived. There's other times where he didn't. I think in playoff matchups, sometimes he wasn't necessarily the best out there. And if you're comparing Russell Westbrook right now to Reggie Jackson right now, you'd probably still say that Russell Westbrook is probably a better player than Reggie Jackson. Reason number two, this gives them a bench identity. As we talked about earlier, it's just kind of been a bunch of young guys this past season on the bench for the Nuggets and Reggie Jackson. And there really wasn't that much of identity. These guys are still trying to find their way in the league. And when you have Russell Westbrook coming off the bench, being a sub for Jamal Murray, this guy is going to attack the basket. He's going to, come out with a lot of intensity. And he's just going to be like, an energy factor off the bench. So he gives them a clear identity for their bench. And that's something I think Denver really wanted to try and address this offseason, which is why they viewed Russell Westbrook as a, appropriate signing to add to their team. Now, here is probably the biggest reason, if you're looking at the reason why Russell Westbrook could be successful in Denver. It's the Nikola Jokic factor, because Nikola Jokic is the tide that raises all boats. He is the engine of this Denver offense. He is the player that makes everyone else better. He makes everyone else better. Aaron Gordon has become a way better basketball player since he got to Denver. I think we saw the best version of KCP, even better than his bubble time with the Lakers. I think the Denver KCP was the best version of KCP. He allows Jamal Murray to be the best version of himself. Michael Porter Jr. would not be a max contract player if he was on another team. He would not be a max. Let me rephrase that. He wouldn't be a max contract player on a team that is competing for NBA championships if it wasn't for Nikola Jokic. So if you're telling me that maybe that makes Russell Westbrook have a slightly different approach to his game where he plays a little bit more unselfishly at times, he might be a different type of pick and roll partner with Nikola Jokic, where he might be able to put a little bit more rim pressure in the pick and roll game with him and Jokic. If you're talking about him playing alongside Jokic and Murray, maybe instead of like being, the KCP role or the Michael Porter Jr. role in that offense, maybe he comes into this the role as like a dunker in that Aaron Gordon dunker position where, he can catch lobs from Jokic, if the defensive breaks down. And the last reason that this could be a really good move for the Denver Nuggets, and the reason that you're looking at this and saying, hey, this Russell Westbrook signing might not be that bad of an idea, this is dude's last chance. This is his last chance. If this does not work in Denver, Russell Westbrook's career as an NBA basketball player is over. This could be his last season. Because if this doesn't work and he doesn't get along with Jokic, I don't know the team that is giving him a shot. I don't know the team that is lining up to trade for Russell Westbrook or to sign Russell Westbrook in free agency. I don't know that team. Again, he's signing a minimum contract here. He has played on 5 different teams in 6 years. 1 year in Houston, they're like, we're good. 1 year in Washington. Wait, Lakers are going to trade us a bunch of good role players for Russell Westbrook? Here you go. Please take him off our hands. He was there for the Lakers in 1 year. They wanted to get rid of him, couldn't get rid of him, and then they had to give up a draft pick to get rid of him and take on kind of a bunch of, questionable role players for the Lakers there. And then he's there with the Clippers, that half season ending 2020 23. It looked like a pretty good signing. They re-sign him, and then 1 year, full year with the Clippers, they're like, we're out. We're out. We'll stick with James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. And the thing is, like, the Clippers need players. They need cheap players, cheap productive players too. And he was a cheap productive player for the Clippers. So for them moving on from him is kind of a little bit of eyebrow raising. So this is Russell Westbrook's last chance. With that being said, if you're talking about my opinion on the situation as we transition to the cons, I don't necessarily love this fit. I really don't love this fit. And it's not to say that Russell Westbrook isn't a bad basketball player. He's still a good basketball player. But in a way, he's kind of a dinosaur. He's kind of a dinosaur with how he plays, and what I mean by that, and this is kind of like my argument of why I'm not the biggest, fan of Bronny, even though Bronny's a different player than Westbrook. He's a guard. He's a small guard that doesn't defend and can't shoot. That's basically Russell Westbrook right now. Guys, it's not just the fact that he can't shoot. He's never been like a lights out shooter, but if you look at his career, it has gone down and down and down and down and down and down, and it keeps going down every single year. His shooting keeps getting worse. He's not as good of a finisher as he once was in the NBA. If anything, he has become like a poor finisher around the basket. And it's not even just like, because you can be a productive basketball player in the NBA. You can be an effective basketball player in the NBA, even if you're not a good shooter. Like Rajon Rondo was never like a good shooter. But even though the bubble time with the Lakers sometime and in a few select games, he seemed like he kind of went out of his body and became a good shooter, but Rondo was never a good shooter. Russell Westbrook, the problem is not the fact that he is not a good shooter, is the fact that he has always in his entire career had poor shot selection. He like this is a thing. If you ever bet on a team with Russell Westbrook or you're rooting on a team with Russell Westbrook, even though you love him, I think sometimes deep down you have to admit, sometimes like with less than 3 minutes left in a game, you see him grab the ball and he's outside the 3-point line and he just kind of, effortlessly grabs it and then chucks it up for 3. You're kind of like, no, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because, guys, he shot like 22% from 3 last year. And he's still shooting threes. That's the biggest problem with him. It's not the fact that he can't make them. It's the fact that he keeps shooting them. He keeps shooting low percentage threes that become long rebounds that the defense can then push out and transition a lot easier. He does not have good shot selection. Will that improve with Denver? Because that's the thing where it doesn't seem like the best fit, because Denver prides themselves with Nikola Jokic and how, good of an engine that they are on the offensive end of the court of always getting good shots. That's why, like, if you were rooting for the Lakers, which I was against the Nuggets, because I'm a LeBron guy, that there's so many times you're rooting against the Nuggets, and you're like, dang it, they got another wide open three. Dang it, they got another good shot. Dang it, Aaron Gordon got another dunk. Dang it, Jokic got another good shot. They always take good shots. So Russell Westbrook coming out there and just being like, hey, I'm going to take this random mid-range shot. I'm going to take this random three. It just doesn't seem like the best fit. We already talked about the defense. Guys, I think there is like this weird perception with Russell Westbrook that at one point in his career, he was a lockdown defender. He did come into the NBA as kind of like a guy with a similarly to Donovan Mitchell. Both those guys, their draft profiles coming out of college was like, hey, both these guys are going to be able to defend at the NBA level. And both of them have never really been like great defenders. And Russell Westbrook's 35 now, so he is a below average defender. He is not a good defender at his age. And even worse, too, sometimes defensively, he will freelance. He will freelance sometimes. It got better with the Clippers, but with the Lakers, he was really bad with this. And even other teams in his career where he had like more power and more say, where he would just freelance off the ball, where it's like he's guarding like, a player on the opposite corner of the court where the ball is, and then he kind of creeps into the lane, creeps in closer to the lane, creeps in closer to the lane, and he's trying to intercept and jump pass lanes. The only problem with that is if the team that you're playing notices that, is able to, pass around that, the other team is going to get a wide open three, or worse, a wide open layup dunk. So just talk about all that stuff. And we were talking about earlier about the upside about like, hey, Jokic being a pairing with Russell Westbrook in the pick and roll game and having this unique kind of pick and roll ball player, more unique or different style of pick and roll ball player than Jamal Murray or Reggie Jackson was, right? The problem with that is every play that Russell Westbrook is in on offense, he is not always going to have the ball. He is not always going to have the ball. So theoretically, if you are going to play him alongside Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, you can't have him play that KCP spot. You can't have him play that Michael Porter Jr. spot. You kind of have to have him at that Aaron Gordon dunker spot. Because again, the dude can't shoot. He cannot shoot. He is not an accurate shooter. So if all of a sudden, if you do have him sitting out there on the 3-point line while Jokic and Murray are doing their, two-man game, it's going to become a lot easier to defend because you can sag off of Russell Westbrook in ways that you can't KCP or Michael Porter Jr. So if you're just looking at all of this stuff combined, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of this fit. Maybe we kind of have to see if maybe the Denver Nuggets make some other trades to kind of, solidify their bench. I don't know what trades are out there, but right now, I don't know about this Denver team. I love Jokic. I love Murray. I love Aaron Gordon. I love Mike Malone. I love this Nuggets team. But I just feel like if you're looking at this team compared to who it was 2 years ago, it just seems like their bench is a lot worse, and losing KCP is huge. Losing KCP is huge because he was always your best perimeter defender. He was versatile. He could guard multiple positions, and he was also like every team wants a KCP. Every team right now out there is like, can we get a KCP type player? Can we get 75% of a player like KCP? So I don't love this fit for Denver. And I'm a little bit scared if they're still contenders, because if you have Nikola Jokic, you're always going to have a chance. But I'm not sure if they're the number one favorite in the West heading into the season. So there you have it, guys. That's going to do it for this video here today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Are you guys think that Russell Westbrook is going to be a good fit in Denver? Do you think he's going to be a bad fit in Denver? If you're a Nuggets fan, what do you think they need to add? What do you think they can add around this team to maybe fortify their bench? Maybe have a KCP replacement if you could possibly do that. That's not Christian Brown. We'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We've been getting a lot more views on a lot of these videos and subs. So please hit that subscribe button. Is the best way to help this channel grow, because we are a smaller independent channel that is maybe 7 months into our existence on YouTube. So doing all of that stuff would very much help us out, help us grow. So if you could do that, would very much appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you next time.